All right, hello everyone. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So the last time I filmed one of these videos, so I'm liking doing this where I sit down and I talk about a topic I want to do. A lot of people have been saying, "Oh my god, this is like a podcast." I'm going to be honest, I don't know how to do all that. The best we can get is me holding a mic. I didn't even turn it on in the last one, so here's hoping that it's turned on today. And sitting down and talking about topics that I want to talk about. So I have a little glass of rosé. I have treated myself, and we're going to talk today about something I have wanted to talk about. It was actually going to be the first one that I talked about, but then I went on a tangent, as I frequently do, and I didn't get to the topic at hand whatsoever. But today we're going to talk about dating and relationships, situationships, hookup culture. It is one of my favorite go-to topics with my friends. It's something we all kind of talk about, and I kind of wanted to say my thoughts on here, and I put out on my social media as being like, hey, I'm gonna film this video. Like, does anyone have any opinions of it? I put it on my Discord, my Twitter, and my Instagram, and I've gotten overwhelming amount already, and it's only been like 20 minutes. So we're gonna check in on that later. But I kind of wanted to like set the ground on what we're dealing with today. I want to give you an update on my weekend. So first of all, let me take a sip. I'm normally a red wine, but whenever I don't want to get drunk and I still want to be able to do things after drinking a glass, I cannot drink red wine. I'm trying to switch over here, and this is such a challenge. There we go. I don't know if anyone else feels like that, but for me, red wine just knocks me out. Whereas rosé, it's like I can drink it and I feel fine. But anyway, it was Pride weekend here in Brighton. I'm currently filming this on Monday, but on Saturday and Sunday, and basically Thursday to Sunday, was Pride Festival in Brighton, which, if you do not know, was the reason that I actually moved to Brighton. Mariah Carey, if anyone knows the story, please let me know down below. Mariah Carey was supposed to be headlining Brighton Pride in 2020, and I was still living back in Ireland, and I had booked a trip for me and my mom and dad to go see Mariah Carey at Pride, because it was like so weird to me that Mariah Carey was going to be performing in Brighton, even though I had never been. And so I was looking into getting an Airbnb in Brighton, and it actually worked out cheaper to just get like 3 or 6 months of rent, which sounds crazy, but Airbnb prices were deranged, and it was kind of an excuse for me to move out on my own. I had been wanting to do that for a little bit of time, and it just kind of felt right. And then the pandemic really started kicking itself in high gear, and Mariah ended up obviously having to cancel. And so I moved to Brighton, and Mariah didn't perform. And 3 years later, we're still in Brighton. And I've been to two Pride festivals now. The first one, Christina Aguilera was headlining, and this year Black Eyed Peas were headlining. I had tickets, but I didn't end up going. And the reason I didn't end up going to the Black Eyed Peas was because it was torrential rain in Brighton, and I barely even wanted to go out on the street partying, but I ended up doing that. I went out with my friends, Emily and Aaron, and their family came down, and we ended up just partying in the street for Saturday. And then on Sunday, I went out for like 3 hours with my other friends, and we were just kind of going from bar to bar. But I ended up coming back early because I had my landlord visit today, which, if anyone's any of my rented babies out there, let me hear you. So I get so stressed whenever I have these landlord visits. They're not my landlord, but it's my property management, to basically make sure that the apartment is, it's only me living here because it's only me on the tenancy, and that I haven't trashed the apartment or I'm not using it for wrong reasons. So they came out today, and I spent most of my Pride weekend cleaning. On Saturday, I spent the entire morning and afternoon cleaning, and deep cleaning. And then I went out in the evening and night. And then on Sunday, I went out during the day and came back at mid-evening and cleaned all night and pulled an all-nighter cleaning, deep cleaning. And the property agent walks in this morning and goes, "Oh my God, were you having a good Pride?" And I went, yeah, thank you. And she goes, "Yeah, I was just wondering, did you have a party because you didn't clean up?" When I tell you my apartment is spotless right now, and whenever I ask her what she meant by that, she ended up saying that I just had a lot of stuff, and that, in referring to, this room specifically, and I was like, "Oh, well, that's, just my decoration." And she was like, "Oh, well, I would have thought you would have cleaned up." And I was like, "Okay, but I can clean up, but I'm not moving, my stuff. Like, I live here." And so Anyway, don't you just love renting and landlords? So great. So anyway, that was my day today. So I'm so glad that's over for another 6 months. So can't wait to see y'all in February again. Hi. But anyway, I want to talk again, like I said, about relationships, hookup culture, situationships, dating in 2023. And I think it's so topical for me to talk about this specifically today because I just came off Pride Festival and most of my friends, I was seeing them engage in things that I'm going to talk about today. And I wasn't. And the reason I wasn't, I have in the past, but the reason I don't now is just because I am someone who is so sensitive and I cannot deal with dating in 2023 that I don't engage in it anymore, including situationships or hookup culture. We're going to get to that. So I just kind of keep to myself now. But, witnessing all my friends go through it and then in 3 weeks' time having to talk them through a crisis, it's just what happens. But I don't see people talking enough about the current situation that we're in when it comes to dating. And I think people are so on the mindset of like whenever I speak to like my nana and granda or older people in my life, dare I say, they will say, this new generation have it so easy because of online dating. And at a forefront that makes sense. We have like Tinders, we have like Bumbles, we have what are the other ones? Hinge. I don't even know what the other ones are. But we have all these dating apps, so it makes sense that dating would be easier because you're being overexposed to so many people. But I want to talk about something that I talked to my friends about a couple nights ago where we were having like a deep, chat night where we were all sitting with like a glass of wine each and we were just like having a deep conversation. So those are like my favorite nights to have with my friends. And I brought up the point that I actually think that works against everyone rather than working for it. And hear me out. So the argument of it's much easier to date in 2023 because there's so many people available with dating apps, like everyone's so readily available, I actually think isn't something that helps people out. And the reason I think for that is because, okay, let me start dissecting this. The problem with dating apps is, and I've experienced this, and I'll actually, sorry, this is to be expected that I'm going to jumble between topics and situations and stuff to deal with it. I went on a date like 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, and I thought that it was going really, really, really great. Like we went out for drinks and, we went out for, to the pier, Brighton Pier, had a lovely day. Then we went out for food, and then he was having a great time and he was like, let's go to a bar. And I was like, okay, we were, spending a long time together. And then at the bar, I was like, I'm going to run to the bathroom real quick, whatever. I run to the bathroom and I come back and he kind of had his back to me. So I was like walking past him to go to the bathroom and I saw that he was scrolling on Tinder. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like there's nothing wrong with the fact that he was on Tinder or someone that you're on a date with, is going to be going back on dating apps. But it was a moment where I was like, okay, here's the thing. Because there's so many people on dating apps and because everyone is so readily available, even if someone has an incredible date with someone, they think that let me keep my options open because there's so many people available. And I think that actually works against, I don't even want to say my generation because people of all ages, kind of rely on dating apps now. I mean, the era of going to a cafe and meeting your longtime partner or going to a club and meeting your long-term partner, I think is of the past. I mean, I speak to people who are, like my parents and older, and they all met, by going to a bar and they were introduced or they met at an event or something like that. Like, I don't think that happens anymore. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it has to do with the overexposure of how many people are on dating apps that you kind of feel, let me keep my options open. And I think I've been guilty of this in the past as well, where, you'll go on a really good date and you're like, okay, but maybe there's someone else out there. You know what I mean? Like if I go on Tinder, like I can scroll on 30 new people or I can go on Hinge and meet 20 new people or something. And I think that that's the problem because I think in speaking with most of my friends, we all search for like a perfect partner. And I know a lot of people search for a perfect partner. And even if you go on a date where hit it off with a person, have the most amazing time, you'll be like, okay, but I was not loving. And this isn't about keeping your standards high. This is like, it's very hard to find a perfect person. You know what I mean? Like, the perfect thing of a relationship is working through things together. I've never been in a relationship, but I'm just assuming. And I think that you can kind of be like, okay, let me find someone who has everything I love in this person and even more. And it's kind of like this chase. And I think something to note as well is that dating apps are not on our side. Like, dating apps want us to be on there for as long as possible. Even the likes of like Hinge, that's like, we want you to delete this app. No, they don't. They want you to be on it for as long as possible so they can make as much money as possible off of you. And I think that it's this constant chase of so many people, so many, like, what if I settle down with someone after like 3 dates or 4 dates or something, or start going serious, but then there's someone else out there for me, and then you're constantly chasing this. And I think that, I'm gonna be honest, I don't necessarily think I'm that guilty of this, because I'm someone who gets attached very easily, which is why I don't necessarily go on a lot of dates. Because if I start talking to specifically like my closest friends and I'm like, I just went on a really great date, they're like, uh-oh. And I remember one of my friends, Rachel, had this conversation with me once where she's like, whenever you tell me that you've gone on a date with someone and it goes well, I start to get nervous, because like the I'm always I can't go on a date, and I can't go on dates without being like, oh, I would love to see where this would go. And that isn't normal, specifically with my age bracket right now. So what would my age bracket be, like 18 to 24? I think that is like a perfect example of like the age bracket. That's not normal. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that have the same mentality as me, but honestly, like, whenever I go on dates, I like to see where things go. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. However, I don't go into dates being like, I'm keeping my options open, and there's someone better out there than you. Because I go and I enjoy the company, and I enjoy the time, and I enjoy the moment, or I just enjoy the date. But I think it's so common for people to be like, oh, well, I don't want to settle down because the next best person is coming. And I think that that is something that I can't engage in, because I end up just getting my feelings hurt. And I think there's this whole conversation of, so first of all, let me know if you agree about the social media, Tinder, Hinge, thing of like overexposure with people, right? And then I have a second point. I'm going to take a sip. I also hope this mic is on. It probably isn't. So, you may or may not have heard of the term situationship. Now, within specifically my age bracket, that is something that I hear a lot. And it's also something that gets brought up. Oh, sorry, I just got a text. Let me mute my phone. Oh my goodness. Oh, it's my friend Kat. What does she want? What's up with her? Oh, she's just doing a little nice daily check-in text. I love her. Situationship is a term I got to know very, very, very quickly whenever I started engaging in the dating scene. And it is a word that I hate. And I hate this new concept of situationship. So if you do not know, a situationship is not when you're dating someone, but it's when you go on enough dates with someone that you basically act like you're in a relationship, but either both of you or one of you does not want to commit to a relationship, so you're in a situationship. This is very, very, very common, and it's not something that my mental health deals with well. I have been in like 2 situationships in my entire life, and when I tell you that they both broke me, they both broke me. And the last one was so bad that I don't even go on dates anymore, because it is so common that I just can't do it. And basically, let me give you an example of one of my last ones. I went on, one of my friends had introduced me to someone, one of my friends, and he's really, really, really nice. I've known him for a while, and he introduced me to one of his friends, and me and the person hit it off very well, went to dinner, and I think we went on I think in total we went on 7 dates, and the full thing, 3 date rule or whatever, after like one or two dates, I know whether or not like I would like to continue going on dates with someone. But it's very common for people, even if they don't want to continue going on dates with someone, just go on them for the sake of like having a situationship or having options. I don't like being looked at as an option because I can't deal with that well. It makes me feel very low about myself. And whenever I've been in situationships and I've also seen the other people that they're in situationships with at the same time that they're in situationships with me, I end up just comparing myself to those other people, and then I feel really shitty about myself, and I genuinely will spiral. Um, and there have been that last one, I like took myself off social media for a while. I hated looking in the mirror. I did not like my appearance. I was criticizing everything about how I talked, how I looked, how I acted in public settings. I cut myself off from my friends. This may sound all very dramatic, and possibly it is, but when you're going on 7 to 10 dates with someone and you're openly having conversations about, let's see where this may go, or, you know, we're really enjoying each other's company, and, you know, you're meeting all their friends, they're meeting all your friends, they're, you know, coming over to your apartment, you're going over to their apartment, you're spending a lot of time together, it's only natural that one may wonder, what is this? But no, 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 no. In 2023, even if you've gone on like 10 dates, you can't wonder what this is, because if you wonder what this is, then you are too needy and your expectations are too high, or you're expecting too much. And I've heard this so many times where people will be like, okay, but don't keep your expectations too high. Like your standards are too high, you know, like even if you're going on 10 dates with someone, like you're just still like friends, like you're thinking too much of this. And had this conversation with my friends where I was like, since when was it bad to have standards for yourself? Like, even if the partner that you're in a situationship with or going on dates with doesn't want to be in a relationship with you or whatever, what's wrong in the other person having expectations or wondering what something is? Because that's also normal at the same stage. It just means you both have different perceptions of something. I just shaved, and now like my upper lip is so itchy. You may not know this, but I could grow a beard very easily. See if I don't shave for like 2 days, but it doesn't go with my brand. You know what I mean? My brand being I like not having facial hair. So I had this conversation with my friend where I was like, okay, but you're making the argument to me that I'm expecting too much. But shouldn't we expect good for ourselves? And to think that we should just settle with someone using us as an option, maybe some people don't want that. I don't want that. And that's the overall point of situationships, right? You're an option. You know, they're also going off with other people. And that is what a lot of people like. A lot of my friends love being in situationships because they don't want the commitment of a relationship. And here's my thing. I've never been in a situationship and been like, I want a relationship. But what I have said is, like, where are you at? And I'll say where I'm at. And then I'll say where I'm at. And then they will start ghosting me, or they'll pull back, or they're whatever. And I'll be like, hey, what was that about? And they were like, oh, you're like coming on too strong, or you're expecting too much, or whatever. And I'm like, oh, I was not saying that I wanted to be in a relationship with you. I just am saying, like, we've been on like 7 to like 10 dates together. And I'm saying, like, where are you at? Because, like, I don't want to be like emotionally invested spending hours every day with you. And then, you know, you're also spending the same amount of time with like other people romantically, right? That's just where I'm at. I can't deal with that, which is why I don't date. But that's not for me. It's for a lot of people. A lot of my friends love it because a lot of my friends don't like, you know, high commitment things. And it's not that I love high commitment things. I just will get very emotionally involved in something and then I get hurt. So for me, that's a big, big, big problem that I end up having. And one thing that really bothered me that happened a while ago, I mean, this was like last year. So I had been seeing someone for like all summer, like all summer. We had been like going on dates. We had been basically acting as a couple, but we weren't a couple, right? You know, spending a lot of time with his friends. He spent a lot of time with my friends. And one day I had a conversation with him where I was like, hey, like, I just want to know, like, where you're at, because, like, if we're not on the same page, like, that's absolutely fine, but I'm going to pull back a little bit. I would still love to be friends with you. And he was like, oh, no, I'm on the same page with you. And then I stopped hearing from him. He stopped responding to me, and I was like, okay, weird, but if he's pulling back, that's fine. And then he invited me and my friends out one night after that, and we all went to a bar together. It was his friends and my friends, and one of his friends made a comment to me about how I'm very needy, and I was like, "What?" And then the guy was like, "Oh, no, 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 shush, shush, shush," and it stuck with me. And whenever I was in the bathroom, the friend ended up having a conversation with my friend Rachel about how like I am expecting too much. And she was like, "What?" And she lived with me during this time. So she was aware of everything. And she was like, "What do you mean?" So whenever I sat back down the table, the little shit starter she was, brought the conversation up. And I was so offended. He had told all of his friends that I was begging for a relationship, which was not true at all. We had one conversation where I said, like, "Where's he at?" And I said where I was at. And what I said was, you know, I can't really continue going on dates with you if, you're not looking at this as anything other than just like a situationship, because like mentally I can't do that. And he said that he's on the same page with me. He ended up telling all of his friends that I am like so needy. I'm begging him for a relationship, and I became a joke in his friend group, which is so ironic because they ended up then inviting me and my friends out to, the bar to just kind of make fun of me all night. And my friend Rachel was not having it, and she was a little drunk as well, so she kind of stood up for me. And then we ended up just going home. I was like, "Okay, this is really rude, and you're just lying." And I got up and went home. And you know what's so ironic? For like a couple months after that, daily texts I got being like, "Oh my God, the conversation was misconstrued. I was so drunk. My friend was so drunk," because it wasn't what I had said. But that is so common in this era specifically, that people love commitment without the label of commitment. And then if you bring it up, you kind of get labeled as like a crazy, overbearing person. So I just can't do that. I can't do it anymore. And it's interesting because so many of my friends like that. Like I said, they enjoy the, you know, being able to go on 10 dates with someone, and then they go on holiday and they, hook up with someone, and or they go on multiple dates with people at the same time and stuff. For me, I can't do that. I kind of am a very closed off person in general, so once I start opening up to someone, I feel comfortable around them. I'm not actively looking for 10 other people to do the same thing with. And another reason that I don't necessarily date is because last year as well, not a good year for me. Really, really, really not a good year. There was someone that I was seeing for a couple months, quite loosely, just going on dates here and there and stuff. And I ended up finding out that he was sleeping with two people that I'm in a friend group with, like two people that are in the friend group that I am in. And I was not talking about him to them, and he was not telling them that he was seeing me, and he was basically using all three of us. And after that, I really kind of closed myself off. I was like, I can't do this. And I felt so icky after that. I felt so used. And me and my friends kind of all like bonded over feeling really, really, really shitty over that. And that is very common. Like, it is very common, specifically as well I was going to say specifically in like homosexual relationships, but I think even in heterosexual, because I speak to some of my like girlfriends and they say about like how, it's so common for like guys that they see to try to hook up with their girlfriends as well. And it's like everyone's afraid of commitment because they're like, there's so many options out there. But it's like at a certain stage that was not the case. A different era, maybe not, that people thought that way. Like, I have these conversations with like my parents, or I have them with like my brothers, and we just kind of openly talk about the fact that whenever we hear about like love stories where people met at a bar in the 80s or something like that, there was never a case where they were going on their phone and trying to go on a dating app. They didn't exist, but to like find 10 other people that fit the criteria, the person that they were with fit, but were more attractive or anything like that. And I think in the age of social media, so much comes into play with appearance, where there's a lot of comparisons that you can put with people your own age, or people that are younger, or people that are older than you, and you can kind of want yourself to be the most desirable. And I speak a lot of, my girlfriends speak a lot about this to me, where there's like a lot of pressure specifically for, girls and women to, always look their best. And, for men to just rock up in the laziest outfit ever, but the girls always have to be, put together. And it's so that you always want to feel good, but for a lot of people I've spoken to, they always want to present their best or look the most desirable, I guess. And by the way, this is not me misquoting anyone. This is literally conversations I've had with just specifically like my girlfriends. I know a lot of people just want to dress up to make themselves feel good, but I'm speaking with, whenever I speak to my friends, and they're saying that they're dressing up for the purpose of wanting to look their best so that they're not compared to someone on social media, which also is like, there's that added thing of it now of social media. And I feel like whenever I hear about people speak about social media, I'm like, oh, here we go again. But it really is impactful to society, and I think it really is impactful to dating culture as well. And I think that there's something so apparent with like couples on social media. Like, I could literally name off like 20 couples that I know because all they do is post on social media together. And then you can start to compare that by being like, oh, well, that's my childhood friend who's in a relationship, and, he's been in one for years, or she's been in one for years, and what am I doing wrong? And, because these couples post so much on social media, which is great, they can do what they want, but then you start to compare yourself to that, and you're like, well, why have I not got that? And I think as well, there's, just speaking like in terms of gay, with the rise of shows like Heartstopper and stuff, which I have not seen Heartstopper, but I know it's like a show about gay guys. I have not seen it, but I know like the impact it's had because I've spoken to my friends about this. It's about finding that like love when you're young, like two guys, and how challenging and beautiful that can be, and coming together and stuff. And I've spoken to a lot of my friends who've watched that show where they're like, I watch these people that are significantly younger than me in the show, like a queer show, and I'm like, why have I not got that love? Because the queer scene is so focused on like hookup culture, and that can apply to heterosexual as well, because that relies so heavily on hookup culture. And I think comparing yourself to media as well when it comes to relationships, because relationships are not as easy as what they appear in a 1 hour 30 movie, because they have to be curated in a way that it's watchable, digestible, and also entertaining, and like that you want to watch it. You want to watch a good love show. And I actually kind of want to watch The Notebook again. See, when I watch The Notebook, floodgates, mama. No, 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 no. You don't want to talk about crying. Seriously, I've watched The Notebook 3 times in my life, and I think all 3 I have like not projectile vomited, projectile cried, because I'm like, oh, when will I experience that? And I've had these conversations with my friends where they're like, when will I experience that? But then you realize in these movies they're not going on a date with someone who's then who only loves hookup culture, which is very, very, very common in 2023, because it's also promoted in media, and it's also promoted within the younger generation, the generation I'm in. Hookup culture is very, very, very big, and it's not something I can engage in. It really, really, really is not something. And this is specifically just me with my mental health. I can't do that. I cannot do that. And a lot of my friends do it, and they love it. And you know what? I'm rooting for them. And they don't get affected by it. I get affected by it. I cannot do it. I can't be in hookup culture and not be emotionally involved with someone. And then if I'm engaging in hookup culture, then I start to get emotionally involved with someone. And it's like, it's this like back and forth where I'm like, how are y'all bitches that are doing it not severely, severely depressed because of this? Because I go into a mental spiral whenever I go on like 10 dates with someone and it doesn't work out. But like hooking up with someone and it not working out, like I don't even know how to put that into words. And I think moving on the conversation of then being in a relationship. So again, everything I'm saying, I've not been in a relationship. Apparently I'm very good at giving relationship advice. Hey, Colleen. Talked her through that divorce. Anyone want to hit me up? Apparently I'm very good at it. I think it's so easy. At a certain stage for me, it was so easy to be like, oh my God, so many of my friends are in relationships. Like, when will it be my turn? The older I've got, the more I've picked up on things. And this is not dissing anyone that I know, but a lot of my friends that are in relationships, it's interesting. If they have, first of all, most of them have moved in together before they've had an argument, which is weird to me. Not that every couple should be expecting their first argument, but I think to like progress so heavily in your relationship, moving in and, trading bank details and stuff without your first argument is such a false sense of like being in the honeymoon stage. Like, I don't think you'll really know someone unless you like disagree with someone. Maybe it's just me. Um, which is interesting. But also, whenever like my friends that I know that are in relationships are arguing with their partner, they do it over text and they never do it face to face. And it's so common for people to break up with their partner of many years over text as well, which is so bizarre to me. And I think that it's a case of not wanting the confrontation, which I get. Like, I'm not someone that loves confrontation, believe it or not. But yeah, like, it's so common to, if you're having an argument, go on a break for a week and do your arguments over text instead of face to face. And I think that if I've ever had an argument with one of my friends, I've immediately been like, can we please go to coffee? Can we please go to lunch? Like, I know you hate me right now, or I hate you right now. Can we talk about this in person? Like, I don't want to talk about this over text because you can pick up on someone's tone. And also, when you're face to face with someone, it's a lot easier to be sympathetic towards them because it's real. Like, you're not reading a fucking paragraph. And I think that that's also something that's really interesting. Like, from people that I know that are in relationships, the 2023-ness of relationships and situationships and dating and options and stuff comes into play with, like, even arguing. Like, people rely so heavily on their phones and social media, even when they're going through the ringer in the relationship. And it's like, that is not healthy either. And it's like, oh my God, I want, like, a notebook love. I want, meeting someone in town, going on relationship dates, falling in love. If we're arguing in person, we kiss and make up, but not like arguing over like Instagram DMs or something like that, which is something that happens so much in relationships these days that is so crazy to me as well, because it like takes away the human aspect of it. And I think that that's something that also like breeds this mentality of like, if someone's arguing over text, I've known so many of my friends who are no longer with their partners who they've argued over text, and they've later found out that in the process of them arguing with their partner over text, their partner has been swiping on Tinder, or their partner has been in a relationship with them and is still on dating apps. And that is something that's so common as well, which is so bizarre to me. So many people that I know that are in relationships wait like 6 months into the relationship before they both delete their social media, Tinder profile or their Hinge profile. And I'm like, you're not even going to pause the account. Like, you're still like going to be on Tinder messaging people while you're in a relationship because you want to like make sure that you're in the right thing for you. It's like, it just is so social media driven, which is, social media is not real and social media is so fake. We're aware of this. But when that comes into play with relationships, it just takes away the human aspect from it and makes it so superficial. So superficial. And I know so many people are agreeing on that on the post that I was saying, and so many people were saying about like how there were a lot of people that were saying that they struggle to pick up on social cues. So when they're going on a lot of dates with someone and someone's using them for a situationship, it's hard for them to pick up on that as well. And that's also something that's like an added layer onto it as well. I need to take a sip. Hold on. I personally can't deal with like the mental gymnastics. And I remember like, so I've never been in a relationship, but my brothers have. My brothers are 2 straight boys. Boo. Kidding. All love to the straights out there. Hi. Pride weekend's over. It's your time again. I witnessed them when I was growing up going in and out of relationships. I mean, they were only in like 2 or 3, so I'm not trying to make them sound like a fucking doormat or anything, or like a rotating door. It wasn't like that at all. Like, my brothers are like in their mid to late 20s now, so I obviously experienced them being in a couple of relationships. First of all, at that as well, it's like, oh my God, by the time my brothers were, I'm about to be 21 in 2 months. Hey, America. Can't wait to get fucked up over there. By the way, okay, so let's put a pin in that about my brother's relationships at 20. What? I'm so like comfortable whenever I go on like nights out. and clubbing in the UK that I don't even know what to do for my 21st birthday. Does anyone have any recommendations? I'm going to go to New York, I think. Like, anyone have any bar recommendations or club recommendations? I'm going to be like going to places for the first time, like on my birthday week. But I don't know what places are like good or like what I should or I don't know what like America like culture is like when it comes to all that. Please let me know. Okay, taking the pin out of that point. By the time, my brothers would have been 21, they were both in like 2 relationships and I haven't been in any. And first of all, it makes me feel really like, what's wrong with me? But then I think about, the reasons that I just talked about. And whenever they were in relationships, dating apps weren't as big as what they are now, even though it was just like 5 to 7 years ago. And I witnessed how if they ever had arguments, they would meet up in person and have arguments. And now whenever I witness a lot of my friends, the arguments, like I said, are over text and stuff. And it just takes away that human aspect of it. And it's really interesting and just really, 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 really weird. And I mean, obviously I've kind of learned everything about gay relationships on my own or through my friends, and moving to Brighton, a very queer friendly place, has been something that has been, I've learned a lot here, even though I haven't been in relationships. Because obviously I can't pick that much up from my brothers who are in straight relationships because it's so different. It really is. But I still witnessed them go through things, which was interesting to witness in the moment. But I think within the queer space as well, if I speak about that for a second, it's so common for people to rely so heavily on hookup culture, specifically if you're queer. And again, this is something that I validated in talking to my other queer friends. This is not me just saying a generalized statement. And that's something that my brothers, always are interested whenever we talk about relationships and stuff, because they say that, dating is more apparent for them rather than like hookup culture. And again, like I said, I don't engage in it, but I witness a lot of my friends do it. And it's just kind of like, for queer dating, it just kind of feels like I'm like 10 years behind my brothers, and it makes me feel really bad about myself. And it also is kind of like, I want to be in a relationship to kind of figure out how I am going to be like in a relationship. And it's like, fuck me, at this stage, I'm going to be like mid-20s before I'm in a relationship. And it's only going to be, I'm going to learn things from each relationship. And I just feel so late and so whatever. And by the way, I'm aware that I'm only 20 and I'm very young. Do not worry. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying if I compare myself to my brothers, I feel like a failure in terms of that, because it's like, okay, I want to be in a relationship, but there's clearly something wrong with me because my brothers were able to be in at least 2 before they were my age. But then I realized the things that I spoke about were not things that apply to them. And also the landscape of dating is very different now. And my brothers, their dating lives have changed as well when it comes to online dating. So this is something everyone deals with, but it's just kind of specifically the era that I'm in, and also being queer. And it just, I think people love to be like, what's meant for you will come to you. Okay? When? You know what I mean? Like, people are like, when you stop looking for something, you'll get it. When you stop looking for a love, you'll find it. But that's not true, because it's not normal, like I said, circling back to the first point in this, to meet people at a bar anymore, or meet people at a library or whatever and pass your number. That's not normal. So it really is the norm to be on dating apps, to be in relationships these days. But then dating apps are so problematic within themselves. Like, they are so problematic. And dating apps have influenced a whole generation to normalize cheating, by the way, as well. How easy it is, which is so disturbing. And one of the main reasons that I'm so cautious when it comes to dating, other than the reasons I spoke about, is because if I ever got cheated on, I feel that I would like self-destruct. I don't know what I would do. I've witnessed like 2 or 3 of my friends get cheated on, and even comforting them through that shattered me. And that's not making it about myself, but it was so awful to hear what my friends were saying about themselves because their partner went on a dating app and went on a couple dates and hooked up with someone on a dating app because it was easy. And hearing them talk about how much that made them feel low about themselves not only scared me, but just made me feel incredibly, incredibly protective of them and just terrified, because it's kind of inevitable with the generation. It's kind of inevitable that I mean, the social media world breeds, non-comfortability. Like, comfortability, I think, scares a lot of people. And I think it scares a lot of people who are in their early 20s specifically, where you're like, I'm so young, like I'm too comfortable right now. Like these are my years to do things, right? And then that can lead people to make decisions they don't want to make because they're like, I may as well make the decisions now because I'm 20, which for some things can apply, but for things that are going to like affect you negatively mental health wise, it's not great. And for me, I at least have realized what does and doesn't affect me, and I don't want to move forward with certain things. Um, but talking about dating and hookup culture and situationships is something that like weighs so heavily on me, and is something that I could talk about for just I could go on and on and on about it. But I wanted to kind of leave it there because I do want to pick this up again. I wrote on my social media as asking for people's opinions, but I wanted to make a first video kind of laying down the foundation of where I'm at with this, like where my mindset is at with it. I would love to hear down below people's opinions. And we can talk about it in a second video. And also, one last point I'll make is, so I'm 20. I'm aware that that's young. I feel that I have a pretty settled life. Like, I live alone. I have animals. I, work full time. I live away from my family. I'm very, like, self-sufficient. I have to pay my own rent. I have to pay my own bills. I have to, I have so many of these responsibilities that people within my age bracket are still at uni, which is great. And I actually wish I was still at uni. I'm very regretful of the fact that I'm not in college right now. And I'm so grateful and blessed and thankful for the life that I have. But I always just kind of feel like I'm older than what I am, because I moved out at 18, and I don't go to college. I just live alone and work. Like, I feel so much older than what I am, and I'm so grateful and blessed that I get to do what I do. But it kind of, whenever I compare myself to my friends, and this is like comparing and seeing on social media and whatever, it makes me feel like, oh, like no one would ever want to be with me within my age bracket of like, the 18 to 24, because like, oh, I'm living the life of like 25 to 30-year-old. And then it's like, okay, I don't want to date 25 to 30-year-olds, but I don't want to date 18 and 24-year-olds. So what am I to do? You know what I mean? That's currently where I'm like at with it. And my kind of mentality now is to kind of debunk my point. Whatever's meant to be is meant to be. I am not chasing anything anymore. But I would love to know people's opinions on this topic, because it's something that I love, love, love talking about with my friends, whether they're in relationships, situationships, hookup culture, or not. Let me know down below. I would love to make a part 2 of this. I hope you're all doing very well, and I really didn't drink much of this at all. It's kind of nasty. Cheers.